Hello? It's okay? Okay, yes. So good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about our recent advances on taxonomy and evolutionary history of Vriesea. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for this opportunity to be here. And let's go. Okay, I will just start with a brief background on Tillandsioideae. Tillandsioideae is the largest subfamily of Bromeliaceae, comprising a little bit less actually, than the half of the species of bromeliads, more than 1,500 species, okay? And has the largest distribution of the family, consequently, from the southern part of the US towards the southern part of the South America. And as you can see here, I really like this paper from Barfus et al. 2016 because it shows the really diverse of structures in the Tillandsioideae. We can see several types of rosettes, several types of corolla shapes, widening from campanulate, narrow campanulates, tubular ones. We can see several different types of functional colors, as we had a previous talk about this. Regarding the colors of the bracts, for example, we have several types as well of stigmas. That is a super important character for taxonomic delimitation in this group. Okay. And due to this large morphological range, this group is recognized by the confused genera boundaries, especially in the largest groups, as Vriesea and Tillandsia, for example. So after recent revisions, Tillandsioideae was split into 22 genera. Okay, if we see the timeline of these numbers of the genera in the Tillandsioideae, we can observe that in the monograph of Smith and Dawes, 1977, we had 7 genera, and this number is right now 22. Okay, and if you observe well this table, you can see that Vriesea was one of the genera that has the more splittings. We had 9 genera coming from the segregated from Vriesea. Okay, and I'd like to highlight this tiny square here on the bottom. That is a group that is called subtribe Vriesea. Okay, that is a Brazilian lineage of Tillandsioideae. And I'll explain a little bit about this. Okay, 4 years ago, we investigated the historical biogeography of this group, and we observed that we had splitting between the subtribe Vriesea and the group comprising the subtribe Cipuropsis Ule plus Tillandsia at more or less 10 million years ago. Okay. And we hypothesized that this split occurred because of a set of events that occurred in South America during this time, including the marine transgressions that occurred inside of the South America, and also correlated to the abrupt uplift of the Andes that occurred at the same time, more or less, and also the erosion of the mountain range that we have in the East Brazil that facilitate the topographic complexity of these places and consequently, perhaps, the diversification of these plants on both regions. Okay, and the final step of this splitting into lineages, we had the drainage of this Paranaense. I call Paranaense because it was in this part of we call in the literature because it was in this part of the South America that we have a state in Brazil called Paraná. That's why it's called Paranaense. But it was related with all of the marine transgressions that occurred in South America. But the drainage of Paranaense and in the end of the Pliocene facilitated the formation of the dry diagonal of the South America. That is composed nowadays but per the domains called Caatinga, Cerrado, and Chaco. And it's nice to observe that when we consider the biogeographical regions proposed by Givenish 2011, and we observe the islands that was separated by this marine trangresses, you can observe a real congruence among these places. It's very interesting. Okay, so regarding the morphology of Vriesea, we have 4 genera. Okay, the genera are Stigmatodon, Vriesea, Alcantarea, or Alcantara, depends, and, and Valtilla as well. Okay, Vriesea is the largest genus, has more than 200 species, and has the widest distribution and is the largest morphological diversity. We can observe here some key traits that we can differentiate these groups. Here, we can observe the shape of the corollas ranging from the campanulate ones to tubular or narrow campanulate, for example, in Valtilla. We have the most part of this group with this presence of the basal appendages in the base of the petals, except by Valtilla that has naked petals. Okay. Regarding the stigma, that is a really important character for this group, we can observe Stigmatodon that was first published with only tubulaceae type of stigma. However, recent work, especially this one from Leme 2022, included more types of stigma inside of this group, including the lamina, the convolute blade that we call lamina convolute in Portuguese, sorry. And also we have convolute blade in Vriesea and convolute blade type in Valtilla. And in Alcantarea, we had a previous name called it Alcantarea type stigma. However, right now we have a kind of a name of these types of stigma that's conduplicate patent and conduplicate erect. Okay, so talking a little bit about Vriesea. Vriesea has more than 200 species. Right now, until early today, we had 214 species, according to GODA, the website of GODA. And Vriesea is a Brazilian lineage, okay, with a few disjunctions towards the northern part of South America and also in the Central America. And we have basically two morphological groups, okay? It was traditionally recognized as sections. Vriesea section Vriesea. This is the typical Vriesea, actually is the type species of Vriesea, Vriesea pistacina. And section Xiphion. We would say Xiphion in Portuguese, but Xiphion, okay? And we have different types of morphological features. For example, in the section Vriesea, we can observe tubular corollas and yellow or green petals. However, we can observe also white petals and diurnal anthesis, hummingbird pollination syndromes. Okay. On the other hand, we can observe in Xiphion, campanulate corollas, okay, brown petals. However, we can observe green petals, white petals, and included stamens is an interesting character, nocturnal anthesis, and bat pollination syndromes. However, nothing is so simple like this in systematics, and you can observe kind of intermediate morphology between these two kind of sections. So the main questions that guided this work, actually, I will show you a set of works that we have been working during these last times, are the other species within Vriesea that may potentially belong to other genera. I think you already know the answer. And are the morphological groups and consequently the pollination syndromes not monophyletic as indicated by previous studies? Okay, so we used 4 elements to compile all of these works that I will show you, especially the extensive literature research, including the protologs, monographs, journals, extensive herbarium work, especially in the collections from Brazil, from south to north Brazil, collections from US and collections from Europe. Also, we performed collections along the whole coast of the Atlantic Forest. That's the main diversity center of Vriesea. And also we performed, And also we performed some collections in Cerrado, Caatinga, and in the Amazon. We investigated some morphological traits of this group that wasn't published in the protologs. And also, we tried to include more terminals and or data in new phylogenies. And it resulted in these three works that I want to show you one by one. So the first one is the molecular phylogenetics and trait evolution in Stigmatodon that was led by our colleague Dayvid Couto. Dayvid Couto is not only a biologist, but he's also a climber and needs to be to work with this group. And we observed during our expeditions in the Atlantic forest that in the northern part of the Atlantic forest, we observe a group of Vriesea called Vriesea Lindl group, northern part and in countryside Brazil as well, called Vriesea Lindl group that resembles the morphology with the Stigmatodon. And then we included these terminals in a new phylogeny of Stigmatodon, including more terminals of Stigmatodon as well, and using this, these molecular markers. And we observed that the group called previously as Vriesea Lindl emerged inside of the main clade of the Stigmatodon, okay? Relatively well supported. Also, in this work, we traced some characters to corroborate this new new placement of this group. And oh no, it's wrong. It's the configuration, but okay, I will tell you. We have here the arrangement of stamens. It was supposed to be another photo here and another here, and we had similarities in the arrangement of the stamens in the Stigmatodon, in which we have 3 for each side of the corolla, as we can observe in the Vriesea Lindl group. I swear that I had a super nice picture about this. And also the position of the stomatal apparatus. We observe that in Vriesea psittacina, that is not the case here. We can observe that the cells of the epidermis is in the same level of the epidermis. The stomatal cells is the same level of the epidermis, and here in Stigmatodon, that's not the case as well. We have these cells a little bit above of the level of the epidermis. So perhaps this is related to some adaptation to dry environments that these plants are correlated. Okay. So talking about the second work, super fast, sorry. And this work was led by Beatriz Neves, that is our colleague as well. It was about the repeated evolution of pollination syndromes in the lineage Vriesea Stigmatodon, okay? Okay, everything is okay here. So each morphological group is associated with the pollination syndromes, as I showed you in the previous slides. And we performed the phylogeny using a 664 loci of RAD-seq using the lineage Vriesea Stigmatodon. We included a different set of species. It's not so clear to read, but it is. So we observe here that the pollination syndromes and the Vriesea morphological groups are not monophyletic, as previous studies suggested before. And also, we observe that the origin of the hummingbird pollination occurring at least twice in Vriesea using this set of data, okay? Here represented by the orange branches, okay? In this case, here in this point, and also here. Also, we trace some characters regarding the ecology and the pollination syndromes, habitat, and life form. And we observed that the ancestor of Vriesea, the estimated ancestor of Vriesea, had a bat pollination, related here, epiphytic life form, and growing in shaded forest. Okay, and also observe that in some cases, the transition to from bats to hummingbird pollination is correlated with the transitions to epiphytic life form and in shaded habitats. So in bat pollination, it's correlated to Rupicolous species, for example, and open habitats. So this other paper was led by me. I think I don't need to put a photo of me here. So instead, okay, good. Instead, I put a photo of the head of the lab, our lab, Andrea Costa, that was the co-author of this work. And we present a nomenclatural review of 21 species of the clade, it's not a clade, of a group called Incertaceae Vriesea that we didn't had assured that belongs to Vriesea. Okay, this comprised 10% of all Vriesea species, and based on morphology, especially in herbarium material and previous phylogenetic studies, placements in previous phylogenetic studies, and literature research, we propose new combinations that I will show very briefly here. For Cipuropsis, we propose 4 new combinations of these 4 species. Okay, the combinations of traits led us to do this kind of new placements of the flattened fluorescence, white petals, included stamens, simple rectus, like twisted stigma. That's not common in Vriesea, as I showed you before, and seeds without apical comma that is present in Vriesea. For Tillandsia, we proposed 2 new combinations and 1 resurrection. Resurrection is a kind of weird word, but it's like we proposed 1 resurrection called Tillandsioideae, okay, published by Lyman Smith. And we proposed this kind of new combinations because of the triangular, ligulate place, bluish petals that's not occurring in Vriesea, petals without appendages, with or without appendages. In Vriesea, we can observe these appendages, and a spirochon duplicate stigma that is not occurring in Vriesea as well. So 2 combinations in Werauhia, especially by the free petals with dactyloid appendage. Dactyloid that is meaning like the fingers of the hand, and copulate stigma, exclusive stigma of this lineage in Tillandsioideae. Okay. So the conclusions about these 3 works, we had 16 new combinations, okay? 8 for Stigmatodon, 4 Cipuropsis, 2 Tillandsia, 2 Werauhia, and 1 resurrection. We propose a new circumscription of Stigmatodon with expansion of the morphological and geographical range of this group, especially regarding the stigma type. We had the pollination systems evolved repeatedly, as we had in previous studies, and are associated with shifts in life form and habitat sometimes. And we kept, actually, we didn't have sufficient morphological information to have a different placement for 11 species of Vriesea, okay? So the perspectives, just in these 2 last minutes, is to publish the 4th chapter of my thesis that was defended in 2020, but like we tried to find time to do this. It was a synopsis and circumscription of Vriesea that's more than 200 species synopsis, and is a very large work that we need to compile a little bit. There are some new species coming from the Atlantic forest. I expect to submit these papers for soon. Also, we are working on a field guide of Vriesea from the Atlantic forest. And also, we are here, actually, all of us, we are here seeking for new collaborations. If you are interested in our work, please contact us. We'll be very happy to share information. Okay, just to finish with pretty plants, I think it's always a good way to finish a presentation. This is the beginning of our field guide that we are construction for the Atlantic forest. So I'd like to thank all of these institutions for my PhD funding, for my PhD travel grants, especially the grants to be here in the MONOCOTSvii, Bromeliaceae International. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and we have plenty of time for questions.
fabulous talk and what incredible plants. I'm wondering if you could just speculate about some of the transitions in floral characters that would move it from a bat pollination to a hummingbird pollination syndrome.
Actually, this is a speculation. Because if you see the ancestor that we estimated, it was bat pollination, but inside of the forest, in shaded environments, and epiphytic. But we had a kind of transitions to bat pollination from transitions to hummingbird pollinations, and then bat pollination again. And in this kind of transition, this secondary transition, I mean, it's like we had this kind of association with hummingbirds inside of the forest, and for bat pollination in open environments, rock-related environments.
More questions?
Thank you for your amazing talk, Igor. It's nice to meet you. And I was thinking if you have any thoughts about the transition between the Vrieseas from the Atlantic forest to the ones in the closer to the in the Cerrado or in the Campos Rupestres, because I work with Vriesea or Stigmatodon from these places. So I would like to know if you have any thoughts about how this transition happened over there.
Actually, yeah, there is speculations. Yeah, actually, we had a result in the biogeography about this kind of division of these groups, Vriesea and Cipuropsis Ule plus Tillandsia, occurred in the Brazilian Shield, that including Cerrado and Mata Atlântica and Atlantic forest. Actually, we don't know properly if it starts in the Mata Atlântica or starts in a region that was only one region, and then Cerrado was formed after. But perhaps, if you see nowadays, the diversity of Vriesea in the Mata Atlântica is super highly diverse. It's the center of diversity. I think it's like 90% of the plants there. Perhaps some events of dispersal that occurred. And if you see, for this group, despite we have some species in Cerrado sensu stricto, there's very few species. There's very few species in this place. It's not so common to see Vriesea. And this kind of new nomenclatural placement of Stigmatodon, we observe that some species that occurred in Cerrado is now placed on Stigmatodon, for example, like Vriesea eleganta and Vriesea pseudo-eleganta, etc. But like this, we need to speculate, but sorry, I don't have the proper answer. Okay.
One last question.
Thank you. Really nice talk. My question is about the, you mentioned this disjunction with Northern South America. How much is known about this disjunction in the group?
The Northern to South America?
Yeah, you mentioned from the dry diagonal to Northern South America.
Yeah, actually, this is we know about this kind of transgressions that occurred in the South America during these times, but it's also there's very few literature about this. It's not so common in the literature about this. We can find sometimes in specific language like Portuguese articles from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, information about this kind of situation, but it's not widely discussed in the literature, this division. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you again.
Okay. Gracias.